elected have been successful, and they have no room for screw-ups. Officers are much more tolerant of screw-ups in the enlisted ranks than successful enlisted personnel. And we learned very quickly, if you tried the same case to a jury of officers and a jury of enlisted men, the enlisted panel was always going to get a harsher sentence. So that's the first difference, is sort of the educational level of the jury. The second is preparation. We're dealing with criminal law in my practice in the Air Force. And as a defense counsel, the government had to turn over any witness statements telling me who they were going to call. I had the right to interview them. I didn't have to tell them anything. One of my most fun trials was the prosecutor was my best friend. It was a larceny trial. 6 airmen had had their wallets stolen in the dark of night. Actually, more than 6. We got down to the trial, and I think we actually got it down from about 8 to about 4 that were still there. So my best friend had to tell me who he was going to call as witnesses. My guy had gone through the barracks asking people at 3 a.m. if they had change for $1 so he could get a Coke. 1, Cokes were cheaper back then. 2, he was not the brightest guy in the world. So he was the likely suspect. Kenneth had a little bit of gambling problem. And unfortunately, his nickname was Money. So my client is Kenneth Money Love in a criminal prosecution for theft. They found 2 billfolds on top of the barracks, side by side. Nobody actually saw Kenneth take the money, but they recovered money from his locker. And there were 2 of the people who could identify bills that came from the stack that Kenneth had. On the top of every stack of bills you get from the bank, there is a wrapper. And there is a time stamp placed on the wrapper. Occasionally, that time stamp will get off of the wrapper and you will find on your bill kind of a half moon, usually with red ink. One of the individuals remembered he had that. Separate and apart from that, this particular unit had a game they played. They would take a $20 bill, put it on an individual's hand, take a cigarette, and try to burn through the $20 bill. And if you could hold it on your hand for X number of seconds without screaming, you got to keep the $20 bill. One of the victims had one of those $20 bills where the hole had burned through, but he had been man enough not to scream, and he won the $20. So, I get to interview all of the victims. I have the $20 bill from Kenneth's locker. It has a hole burned essentially, let's say, right here. So I took a $20 bill and burned a hole myself at the far end of where the real one was. And then I would interview them, and I would show them the $20 bill, and I would show it to them, and I would say, is this the hole you were talking about? And when they would say yes, I would have them write out a statement. Now, I didn't have to show it. So, okay. The kind of law I practice is not criminal law. I had my fill of criminal law when I was in the Air Force. By the time I got through defending 100 court martials, I never understood how we got a plane off the ground. Okay? In the area where I practice, you know 95% of what the other side is going to do before the trial ever starts. It goes back to preparation. We have formal discovery rules. We take what are called depositions, where we actually take the testimony before trial, so we know what the opposing witnesses are going to say. We have to review our witnesses. We have to review our evidence. So that's sort of the other functional difference in trial work. And then the third difference for me was an important one. When I was in the Air Force, I was dealing with people's lives and futures. If they go off to jail, that pretty much is going to be a stain on their career for the rest of their life. For instance, I had 2 cases I'll always remember. One was a defense of rape. My client was married, and his wife was pregnant, and while he was in pretrial confinement for 6 months before the trial, she gave birth to his baby, and he asked me to be the godfather. The husband of the victim had been in basic training. I am Protestant, but my wife is Catholic. Now, Jody is the smart one in the family. Let's get this clear. I may have gone to Harvard, but she is the brains of our operation. Went to Oklahoma State. Depending on what 15 hours she took her last semester here, she could have a degree in biology, microbiology, zoology, chemistry, or English literature. Knowing that we were going to be paying our own way at Harvard, she got a degree in microbiology so she could work in medtech. Worked full-time for 1 year, then went part-time as an employee and went to Boston College full-time to complete a master's in English literature. While I was at Maxwell Air Force Base, she got a degree in secondary education from Auburn University. Taught at Michigan Guinness High School until our youngest son graduated in 1993, taught 1 more year, and then one of the great economic decisions of our family, decided that she would quit her job and commute back to Oklahoma State for 4 years to work on a PhD. Okay. In the Catholic Church, if you're going to get married, you go through what's called pre-Canaan. It is premarital counseling. And my wife and I did that training. We did the sessions for the basic trainees at the Catholic Church at Lackland Air Force Base. The husband of the victim had been one of my students. So on the one hand, I am now having to trash his wife. At the same time, I've got my client asking me to be the godfather of his child. That's dealing with people. I had one other one where I had a sergeant. Again, this was a basic trainee, a sergeant who was doing basic training who literally did steal money. Was in a classic, you've seen it on TV 1,000 times, car chase. Knowing he was going to be caught, he tried to kill himself by running his car into a tree, and he was not successful. So now we got a court martial. I get him off with a sentence of about 2 years, and as they were carting him off to Leavenworth, his last words to me were, "Captain Court, I want to thank you for what a great job you did. If you ever need a hit put out on somebody, please call me." I just broke an attorney-client privilege, but you don't know who he is. So I was dealing with people problems. Today I deal with money. Now I deal in cases that are 6-figure, 7-figure cases, but nobody's going to jail. Okay. Any other questions?
I think we're about out of time.
All right, I will stay down here if you got questions. I'll stay here for about 10 or 15 minutes and then answer anything you need. Okay?
All right, real quick, we gotta fill out. Pass these down. Take one of these.